On the train from Kyoto to Fuji. Upon leaving the train, I try to compliment the conductor with the few Japanese words I know. Yokonarimashita. It has improved, something I tell my students in the master classes, but probably not very suitable here. He may have thought this lady is nuts. I stand here on the famous bridge in Uji, built originally in the year 646, at which time it was the traffic junction between Nara, south of Uji, and Kyoto to the north. After the Nara period, when in the year 794 Kyoto becomes the new capital, emperors and the aristocracy started building their villas here. The current bridge was reconstructed in 1996, now in brown wood, as opposed to the red wood of the past. The bridge is 508 feet long and 82 feet wide. Giboshi is the name for these old onion-shaped ornaments for which the bridge is famous. This area, despite wars, floods and earthquakes, has remained a symbol of the beauty of nature in and around Uji. It is the setting for many romantic stories, the most famous of which is the story of Prince Genji, written and completed in the year 1000 by the imperial lady-in-waiting Murasaki Shikibu. A portrait of Murasaki Shikibu printed on a 20th century T-shirt. In Japan, there is always a shopping street on the approach to a temple. Here, every restaurant exudes a different aroma. As this text may not be quite in focus, I will read it. The Byodoin Temple was originally a rural villa belonging to the Fujiwara no Michinaga, Fujiwara. In 1052, his son, Yorimichi Fujiwara, converted the villa into a Buddhist temple, and the following year he built its main feature, the Hodo or Phoenix Hall. So the Phoenix Hall, the main feature, enshrined in the Phoenix Hall is a large image of the Amida Buddha carved by Yocho, the leading Buddhist sculptor of the day, Yorimichi Fujiwara dus, and his descendants added to the temple over the years, erecting such structures as the Hokkaido Lotus Hall, the Godaldo, a hall dedicated to the 5 wise kings, a sutra library, a treasure house, and a pagoda. The whole complex was an exquisite representation of Jodo Buddhism, pure land heaven. Nearly all of the buildings were destroyed by fire in 1336 during the historic clash between the Ashikaga and the Kusunoki Masashige. Today, only the Phoenix Hall, the Cannon Hall, and the Bell Tower still remain. The temple's fine Heian period garden, designated a major historical garden, has served as a model for the gardens of many temples and shrines built thereafter. The Byodoin is the representative symbol of Heian period aristocratic culture and Jodo Buddhist art. Spring 2002. The center building is the large Phoenix Hall, which contains the Buddha statue. The only function of the structures on either side of the middle hall is to give a sense of airiness to the main building. On the roof, 2 phoenixes, which give the building its name. The entire building gives the impression of a phoenix spreading its wings. The phoenix is the mythical bird protecting the Buddha. The phoenixes on the roof are copies. The originals are in the museum. The phoenix is also considered the harbinger of happiness. From the tale of Genji, Genji Monogatari by Murasaki Shikibu, we learn that the ladies of the aristocracy used to go boating on ponds, such as this one, in dragon boats or phoenix boats, and wearing Chinese dresses, which they found very exotic. All put together without the use of nails. Glorious blossoms. Considering the phoenix shape, this long structure at the back of the main hall depicts its tail. Thus back to the entrance of the Buddha hall. Inside, Buddha is sitting on a throne of lotus leaves. His face can be seen through the opening in the grate. Facing east, across the river Uji. A net prevents birds from flying in. This Buddha, who sits on a throne of lotus leaves in 4 layers, was created mid-10th century by a priest called Yocho. Yocho developed a new technique of woodcutting, which method involved sculpting a single figure by assembling multi-pieces of wood, rather than using one solid block. These sculptures were then lacquered and gilded. On the side walls, small wooden cherubs with musical instruments, originally all painted in beautiful colors. Another look. It appears that in 1992 I wasn't really supposed to film this. In 2002 it was entirely impossible. The mandorla and the canopy, the apsaras, are all beautiful woodcuts. This is how 52 bodhisattvas on the whitewashed walls of the Amitabha Buddha hall may have looked. They are floating on clouds. These bodhisattvas are each made from 1 block of Japanese cypress wood. This particular figurine is 34 inches high. This one is 16 inches and restored to what one surmises its original colors. These figurines were also made by Yocho and his students before the year 1000. The images of these bodhisattvas floating on their clouds around the Buddha, must have made a great impression on the people of that time, including the Fujiwara family, as they all longed for the Western Pure Land, for heaven. On my way out, a wooden door, which together with the other doors and walls was painted in a new Japanese style, Yamato-e. Which was different from the Chinese style used hitherto. This is a representation of the Amitabha Buddha, together with his bodhisattvas and musicians, dancers, one playing the flute, all ascending to paradise. Outside again, in front of the Buddha hall, this lantern near the pond has a base consisting of 4 parts in the form of a circle, then a second base consisting of lotus flower leaves, the column and a hexagon center stone covered by a roof. This is the prototype of the Bearduin stone lantern. In 2002, the garden consisted of pebbles and a few boulders, plus the lantern. Going back to 1992, the garden looked like this: a flower bed with azaleas, very small pebbles beautifully raked, the 2 boulders which are still there in 2002, the lantern, and another flower bed. A totally different look. Something else that was different was the hundreds of pairs of shoes in 1992. In 2002, only small groups were allowed in. The original bell tower, made of wood. The bell itself is a true copy. You see a flying apsara, a lion, and beautiful ribbons. In some temples, visitors are free to use the beam with which to strike the bell. Unfortunately, this was not allowed here. Another original building, this one is said to contain a Kannon Bodhisattva Kuan Yin statue, but I have never seen the building open. It is currently the season for chrysanthemums. They are everywhere in all shapes and colors. The chrysanthemum is the national fall flower in Japan, as the cherry blossom is for spring. And here the spring blossoms by the water that surrounds the entire building. Imagine how written poems were left to float like boats on the pond, to compete with each other in the art of poetically and at the same time succinctly capturing the most beautiful moment in nature. Such a poem, a haiku for instance, has no more than 11 syllables. The reflection of Biaudwin in the pond is like the rebirth in the house of Buddha in paradise. As Prince Genji said, the greatest excitement in nature is in the changing of the seasons. After visiting Biaudwin, I strolled along the river Uji. The temple seen from the riverbank. Lovely aromas, but I'm not going inside because you have to squat, and I cannot do that. There is an island in the river, and in the distance, a curved red bridge from the shore to the island. On the island is a pagoda. This bridge is already mentioned in the novels written around the year 1000. Notice the pagoda, an old picture of the bridge in Uji, filmed illegally in the Museum of Biaudwin. Notice the pagoda, the island, and raging waters. Which one is the historic bridge? Shall we find out together when we go to Uji?